Good evening, Auburn fans. I'm Miles Barano. I'm here with Mike Neislick and Brandon Marcello. We're with Auburn 24/7 Sports at auburnundercover.com. We just heard from Chip Lindsey, offensive coordinator, in a press conference today. He didn't have too much to share with us per usual, but what did you guys think?
Everything's good on the Plains. That's what Chip's major sort of takeaway was. Kind of had a answer for why everything wasn't kind of as bad as it seemed, or the struggles weren't a big deal. Kind of gave everybody high marks that he was asked about. Prince Tega, Nate Craig, Jarrett, held the ball on a little too long was what he kind of said. But other than that, everybody kind of got high marks. Easy grader, Brandon?
Yeah, A+. Gold stars for everybody. Everybody gets a fruit cup. Yeah, I thought it was interesting. He kind of echoed what, I'm sure several of us were saying, and I know I was saying during the game, that Jarrett Stidham seemed to be holding onto the ball too long during the game, and Chip Lindsey said that too, and that sounds like something that's easily correctable. Gus Malzahn echoed those statements on Tuesday when he spoke to the media. He thought Jarrett Stidham did some good things. Thought he threw that long pass to Darius Slayton was very, very well thrown. I agree with that. Darius Slayton's got to kind of come in with it, even though it was a little difficult. He's got to fight through that defender who probably had a little bit of a pass interference call there that wasn't called. But overall, he was pleased with the offense. He's happy to get Kyle Davis back at receiver. Interestingly, he didn't talk a lot about Cameron Petway when he was asked about him. In fact, this was about a 12-minute press conference tonight, and he was asked a lot of questions because all of his answers were very short. And Chip Lindsey's typically the guy who speaks fast, but he also will speak long at times about certain things. And tonight it was nothing in depth. And then by Cameron Petway, he was just talking about, it's good to have depth and whatever. And that was it. Nothing about, I think the question was, happy to get Cameron Petway back. What do you expect from this week? How's he approaching this week? And he just kind of gave a generic answer about, it's good to have him back. So I think they're just not wanting to really talk all that much before this game, it sounds like to me. I think that they all know they've got to go prove themselves in this game, the coaches and the players. And he was even asked about, is this a game in which you could reproach your receivers and say, hey, one or two of you got to step up in some clutch situations? He's like, no, every week you talk to everybody. Okay. So nothing there really significant from the answers, but we'll learn everything we want to know come Saturday at Clemson, I would guess. But still believe that Kerryon Johnson, the running back, is not going to play, by the way, with that hamstring issue. And it certainly sounds to me like Cam Martin's going to be playing quite a bit.
Let's see if we've got any questions.
Yeah,
like we said, don't have a lot
like,
to work with tonight.
There's a rave going on behind us at Jordan-Hare Stadium.
There is. We're not sure what they're doing. Lots of questions about the suspensions. I don't think Gus is going to mention anything more on that.
Yeah, and it's winding down. The only suspension remaining is Sean White, and his will be a 2-game suspension. He'll come back from Mercer, is what they said. Kyle Davis is back, the receiver. He'll make his debut Saturday against Clemson. So will Cameron Petway. Outside that, Gus Malzahn's not going to volunteer information as to why they were suspended. Obviously, those are personal matters. And to be honest, as a reporter, something very difficult to kind of report on anyway and find information for people who go on the record to discuss. But long story short, they were suspended for a reason, and they're serving their punishment. And then now for Sean White, it's coming to an end.
Well, not before Saturday.
Right. For
Yeah.
Mercer.
For Mercer.
Third week, the big game, week 3 against Mercer.
Circled on the calendar.
And do you think it'll take Jarrett Stidham a while to warm up, or do you think he'll be fully ready for Saturday?
That's a good question. What do you think, Mike?
I think there's still going to be some things to work through. Now you get new personnel back too, so you're adding Cam and Kyle to the mix. we don't, and he didn't have Kyle during the spring too. So I think there's still some bumps in the road here, especially this is his biggest test, defensive line wise, kind of environment wise. Probably never played anywhere like Clemson, prime time, number 3 team, defending national champions. So I think there's going to be some work left to do, and offensive line's obviously working through some things still with the miscommunications, missed assignments, and that all kind of contributes. It's not just Stidham, but Stidham, even if he throws the ball quicker, he doesn't hold on to it as long. There's going to be other things. He still hasn't shown that chemistry with anybody outside on the receiving end, outside of Will Hastings, so I think there's still some work to be done.
Yeah, I agree with that. And then obviously, I think what will help him is him being able to open things up a little bit more for what makes him more comfortable in the route tree. I don't think we saw really a lot of what Chip Lindsey is going to bring to this offense as far as the passing concepts that they debuted a little bit of against Georgia Southern, but I think that they'll really kind of unleash it at Clemson. I mean, this is the game they've had circled on their calendar and have been preparing for offensively, especially more than any other game. So that would be my expectation. I'm trying to think here. It's very hard. Come back to me. If you have any questions. There was something else that I was about to bring up. Oh, it's the article I wrote. I'm sorry.
There you go.
It must have been really good.
It must have been a great article. About pass protection and issues of that sort. Auburn gave up 8 tackles for loss, and if you look over the last 2 seasons under Herb Hand and this coaching staff, they've had issues allowing their players, or running backs, quarterbacks, negative plays to be tackled behind the line of scrimmage. Auburn, 3 games into the season last year, was dead last in the country, allowing nearly 11 negative plays per game, not counting penalties. After one game, I know it's just one game, but it was Georgia Southern, they were hit back for 8 negative plays. That's not a good sign. Goes back to a lot of issues. One, some with the offensive line, though I think they perform better than some people are giving them credit. Also, running backs missing blocks. And then Jarrett Stidham just holding on to the ball a little bit too long. That was an issue. I also think the RPOs at times were a little bit slower to develop than they should have been. All that kind of contributing to Auburn having 8 tackles for loss allowed, which has Auburn, I think, 97th in the country right now after week 1. Not a good spot to be in, especially when you're going on the road at Clemson against the best defensive line you'll face until probably the Alabama game in the Iron Bowl. So I think that's a big storyline going into this game this week at Clemson.
And a lot of our viewers are asking about how you think Auburn's going to match up against that Clemson defense.
Yeah. It's tough. Like I said, Clemson's defensive line is really stout, and you look at it, it's led by Dexter Lawrence. They only had 5 tackles for loss against Kent State. Kent State was running the ball quite a bit in that game, much like Georgia Southern, except it wasn't triple option attack. But Clemson held its own, obviously, in what it was doing. They allowed 1 passing yard, but as I said, Kent State wasn't throwing the ball a lot. That Clemson defense, I think, is the strength of their team. But what surprised me the most about Clemson was how well-oiled they look as an offense with Kelly Bryant at quarterback and them trying to break in some new receivers and running backs and utilizing them to try to figure out, what their rhythm's going to be this season on offense. So the defense is about what I expected. I think Auburn and Clemson are comparable on so many levels, but most essentially to me is both defenses look very, very good.
Well, one thing Clemson does, we've talked about this before, is provide snap counts, and their starting defensive line average just less than 25 snaps per game. So a lot of there wasn't big stats because they weren't on the field. What was interesting too, kind of what building on what Brand said with the offense, is Kelly Bryant kind of had the day you kind of expected Stidham to have. He played only something like 40 snaps, had 300 plus total yards, 77 yards on the ground, and very efficient in the passing game with something like 16 to 21. Yeah. So that was kind of the game you thought Jarrett had. He played much longer and then didn't have those kind of numbers, sort of just those eye-popping numbers with the efficiency. So it was just kind of interesting to see, that defense really played basically a quarter and a half, maybe. So you're not going to see those numbers from last week. But you got Christian Wilkins on the inside. You got Dexter Lawrence, two guys that are up for all the Defensive Player of the Year awards, and that's going to be really interesting to see what kind of push they get. They didn't protect well and allowed those negative plays against a sort of an inferior line. So what is that going to do when you kind of go against a guy that is one of the best in the country? I'm not sure. Could disrupt things. Could make things make them make changes quicker too. Could be reevaluating things after that first quarter after kind of things start out. So
do you expect Auburn's offense to maybe make some more complex plays against Clemson than we saw this past week?
Yeah, I mean, they held some stuff back, but I mean, I don't think it's going to be radically different. I mean, with carry on out, they'll do some, maybe they go away from the Wildcat, maybe they try some other stuff. I think they'll go deep a few more times, take a few more shots, but I don't think it's going to be sort of night and day, just because there's not enough time to sort of say, oh, we hit most of the playbook last week. I don't think that's how things like that work.
Well, I'll say this. I think they held back a lot on what they've been doing and what they ran in preseason camp. There were rumors, some starting by fans on our message board, the Bodyget at auburnundercover.com, that they were utilizing the playbook from last season in the game and that the real playbook will be debuted against Clemson. That's not the case, guys. You have to realize Gus Malzahn's offense is what it is, and Chip Lindsey was brought in to, one, call the plays, but two, just spice things up a little bit with the passing concepts and the passing routes in the passing game. So, listen, Gus Malzahn's offense, as I've said before, has taken Auburn to a national championship twice. They've won one national championship. They've won 2 SEC titles utilizing it. They've led the nation in rushing to become the first team in SEC history to lead the entire nation in rushing back in 2013. His offense works. It's just been a matter of, as players have said entering this season, their Achilles heel and the thing that's been missing is the quarterback, and they believe they have that in Jarrett Stidham now, and that's why Chip Lindsey was brought on board to kind of, pump up the passing game a little bit and add some different things to the passing routes in the tree, so to speak. So I think more than anything, that's what you'll see is a little bit more, little dash of pepper or something thrown in there. Please take the microphone away from me.
Well, are we expecting to see more passing or running on Saturday?
I think you'll still see more running, unless they get down early, in which case things are falling apart anyway. I think things will have gone kind of awry if they're throwing the ball more, just because they've always said that they're going to be a team that runs the ball more. I mean, it's just that's what their identity is. That's what they're going to do. Even with carry on out, they got Cam Martin, they got Malik Miller. Those are guys they're confident in, and Cam Petway is going to get a bunch of carries. So, I mean, unless this team gets unless there's 3 turnovers again early and then they're down a couple touchdowns and they have to go through the air. I mean, I don't see them kind of abandoning their identity to just sort of try to open things up.
No, I completely agree with that. They're going to run the ball. That's what they do. And in fact, you kind of saw what they were doing against Georgia Southern along those lines. They actually maybe called a few more pass plays than they did because Jarrett Stidham took off running, and he has that option in the RPOs. That's the whole point, run-pass option. This is a team that's going to be built on the run game. Chip Lindsey has said that from the beginning. In fact, Kerryon Johnson told us, a week or so ago, that from the beginning, the very first thing he said was, we're going to run the football here. That's Auburn football. We're not going to abandon that. So to think Auburn was going to come in and throw the ball 55% or 60% of the time, you're dead wrong. It's going to be closer to 60-40 run over pass than anything else.
We've got a lot of questions about score predictions for Saturday.
Not going to get them until it's that agenda Friday morning. We'll give those out. So tune in. We'll post that. It's a video. I know everybody loves videos, so you can watch it and you'll find out our final score predictions.
Fearless Forecasters.
Plus Fearless Forecasters, which also will be Friday. And I won the first week, dominated. I think I went 9-1. Brandon was second, terrible. I think at 8-2. So
did I really get that many games right?
I think you did. 8 or 2 or 7-3. We all lost the California North Carolina game.
The Cal win that?
Yeah, Cal won, and then you picked against Tennessee because you don't like Butch Jones.
Pretty much.
And then, you were 7-3 because you also you hate Michigan.
Yeah, I picked Florida over Michigan.
You picked Florida over Michigan,
picked Tech over Tennessee, and Tech should have won that game. I should have put it away.
Should have.
But you know what they say. They don't say anything.
Oh, you might have. Did you pick Texas A&M too? I don't remember that.
I think I picked UCLA.
Because I think both of us picked UCLA.
I think I picked UCLA and then when they were getting.
They were 7-3. So.
Great.
You won last year, though. Did you realize that? You were
not until you wrote that.
Sugar Bowl decided it all.
Did it really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's exciting stuff. You guys don't care.
The Tax Slayer Bowl.
The Tax Slayer Bowl. I've been there way too many times.
The Tax Slayer Bowl?
Yeah. I've
Where
been there
is
way
the
Jacksonville, Florida.
Ooh.
I've been there 2 times, but it seems like 15.
Is that Mississippi State?
Mississippi State. They went twice. They blew out Michigan. Got Rich Rodriguez fired. Anyway, you guys don't care.
So
anyway,
share your favorite Tax Slayer Bowl memory.
My favorite Tax Slayer Bowl memory. Well, I'll
tell
you what.
got nothing else.
This is going way back. Not really. It's 2010. State won 9 games. They blew out Michigan, and the night Christmas Eve, New Year's Eve, they had like a party on the balcony for us along the river, and they did fireworks on the river. It was really cool. And the Michigan beat had a lot of very well-known writers on it, one of which was a student at the time by the name of Nicole Auerbach, who now works for The Athletic, covering national college football across the country. And she used to work for USA Today. So it was a lot of fun that night. That was a good memory, getting to hang out with everybody and just have fun. And everybody's tuning out. Actually, they are. They are tuning out. Let's go to questions.
Under over 200 yards rushing.
Ooh. Over under 200 yards rushing. Brandon, you go first.
Okay, I'll say under. I think Gus Malzahn's offense will not hit the 200-yard mark. This defensive line, as I said, for Clemson is way too good. They would think that Auburn will be close to it. I just don't see them eclipsing 200 yards. If Auburn rushes for more than 200 yards in this game, they're going to win the game. That's a very good sign for them. If they're throwing for 400 yards, they're probably losing the game because that means they're playing some catch-up. But to Auburn's MO, if they rush for more than 200 yards, they got a really, 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 really good shot at winning this football game.
I'm going to go under 2 just because I just don't see them having, kind of the big plays necessary, I think, to put up big numbers. I think they're going to work to get on the ground. I think it's going to be kind of lower average. You're not going to see what Carry-On and Cam had last week where you're averaging 9 yards a carry. I think it's going to be close to that 4 yards and have to fight for every yard to get. So I'd go under. Like you said, if they did get over 200 yards, probably win. So then, things are going well for them. But I think it's going to be tough ask.
How about does Auburn blitz more to test Clemson's QB?
That's difficult.
Maybe for the less of football buffs, we can explain what blitz means.
Sending non-defensive linemen at the quarterback. I don't
necessarily.
Or secondary or what? Have
you not played NFL blitz?
That's right.
2000.
So. Maybe. I think they'll do some things with their linebackers. Try to give them some things to look at. And Darrell Williams, I've talked about kind of being more aggressive with. Talked about and Trey can cover a lot of ground there. They ran a lot of 2 linebacker sets against Georgia Southern. I think we'll see 3 linebackers more often against Clemson. Clemson's going to keep them honest. Kelly Bryant's going to be very capable of running out of the pocket, so you can't get too aggressive. Deshaun Watson didn't do a lot of that last year, and they blitzed at times, especially on 3rd down. But I don't know. I think it's going to be a mixed bag. I think they'll try to do some things to make him uncomfortable, but we'll rely on their defensive front to make that happen. I think you'll see maybe more of that Rabbits package.
Rabbits, yeah. It's when they actually put bunny rabbits on the field. It's very freaky. I don't think they'll blitz very much. I don't think they'll increase their blitz, what you saw against Georgia Southern, for the very fact that Kelly Bryant can run out. And if you blitz a guy like that and he runs out, he's going to pick up big yardage on the ground. Also, it leaves so many things open down the field, and you're going to have to lean on your secondary, secondary in which hasn't been tested yet because Georgia Southern didn't throw the ball. So I'd be surprised if Auburn's very, very, very aggressive on defense with blitzes. I think they're going to count on their defensive linemen one-on-one, come here and there every now and again with the linebackers, but I think they're going to be spying Kelly Bryant, the quarterback. I think they're going to be – that's not conservative, but I think they're going to be keeping an eye on the quarterback more than anything and kind of taking a step back and making sure that he doesn't escape the pocket and create something with his feet. Because as you said, he had 77 yards last week and limited playing time on the ground. The guy's very explosive.
And are we thinking our go-to receiver is still Nate Craig? Where has he been?
Well, that was interesting. We'll have a story up on him in the morning. But the most bizarre answer of the night was Chip Lindsey was asked about Nate Craig and said he made a really good block, which is fine. You know, he's kind of he's still part of the game plan, big part, because he made this big block, and then he credited Nate Craig for getting down the field and celebrating the touchdown, and that was his secondary example of him participating in the game plan. Was that sort of a strange answer, in your opinion?
Well, when you got up and got your second Coke during the game, I was like, this guy's really involved.
I'm really involved in the Auburn 24/7 game plan.
He didn't write any articles, but he was really good at getting Coke, a Coca-Cola. American Psycho. So anyway,
that was a
very strange answer. He blocked, but I mean, listen, we've mentioned this. Will Hastings led all the receivers, and he had like a third of the snaps that Nate Craig Myers did. And Nate Craig Myers was not targeted once, and yet...
and to call him a significant part of the game plan for one block and then celebrating the touchdown, I mean...
Again, everybody got a fruit cup after the game. Everybody got Squeeze-Its, and do they still make Squeeze-Its?
I think so.
Cool. Do you know Squeeze-Its?
Is that like a Go-Gurt or something?
Something like that.
It's a drink that's in a plastic bottle, and then you squeeze it to get the squeeze it. It's like and it's always like orange and grape and cherry, and they're really bad.
Going off the rails.
Squeeze-Its. I love Squeeze-Its.
But so that was a strange answer. But you know, what are you gonna do, right? Gotta say positive stuff.
Does anyone have any more questions?
One more.
One more question. Who's more gritty, Braden Smith or Will Hastings?
Probably Will Hastings, because Braden Smith's got that size, and he's a gardener. So can you be a gritty gardener?
I think you have to be a gritty gardener.
You get your hands dirty.
No, you're very delicate.
I don't know. Will Hastings did the flip thing. So.
Yeah, he did the flip.
Yeah, Will Hastings
That's
got
pretty gritty.
Yeah, that's pretty gritty, coach on the field. So there you go.
Good question.
Great question.
Not sure.
Braden Smith's a beast, and I would say Will Hastings is gritty.
There you go. You've heard it here.
One will play in the NFL, and his name's
Will Hastings, clearly.
yeah. So it would be Mr. Braden Smith. He's country strong, as they say. He didn't he bench press 500 pounds in high school, and he's done it here too. Who hasn't? Who hasn't bench pressed 500 pounds in high school? Yep. So there you go.
All right. Here's a fun one. Would you rate Clemson's run game skill 1 to 10?
Their run game skill?
Just their run game in general. Rate it 1 to 10.
I don't know.
8.
That's pretty high up there.
Picked a number. You had no idea.
I don't know. That's a B in class, right?
Everybody gets B's.
It's a B. I mean, they're going by committee there. So
yeah, they haven't replaced their back that they lost last year. So.
Yeah, so they don't have like a go-to guy. They've kind of going by committee there. But then you add in Kelly Bryant can run. I mean, listen, it's just like, listen, Clemson's had, 6 straight years of 10-win seasons? The offense never seems to, fall apart or have a bad game.
Big bad game.
I'm very tired. I'm loopy. I don't know what's happening with my brain.
Hump day.
But it's hump day, yeah. So, but 8, I would say 8, just because Kelly Bryant really adds something to it. Michael doesn't have an answer.
I got nothing.
I'll say 7, just to do the under.
There you go.
All right.
All right, guys. We will see you. Is it game day? Is that our next?
Yep.
Saturday, yeah.
All right.
Maybe we'll do a special Facebook Live Friday
Maybe
on the
so.
road.
Oh, road trip.
While you're
With
driving?
Brandon
Yeah,
and Mike.
I'll drive, and Brandon will be holding the camera.
I've
There
done
you
that
go.
before. I did a Facebook Live or Periscope from the back
No,
seat
you should admit. Oh,
of a
this was the
small.
back.
No, I wasn't driving. Going, hey everybody, it's snowing and icy. No, I
Good.
did one in the back seat on the way to the Birmingham Bowl one time in the pitch dark. It was
must
So
great.
have
you never know what you may see tomorrow, guys.
Friday.
Oh, Friday. Tomorrow's not Friday, unfortunately.
But you never know what tomorrow will bring.
Yeah,
That's true.
never know.
All right.
Check it out at auburnundercover.com. Bye, guys.